All right, let's get started. It is 4 o'clock. Welcome to our annual RAMP training. My name's Kevin Burns. I'm the advisory board chairman this year. So I am in charge of welcoming you to this afternoon. Got a couple of slides we'll hit. But really, the first thing that the most important part of you being here today is that we give you credit for being here, because there's a scoring column when it comes to the grant awards. So we need to know who's here. So we need to make sure if you're here in person, you're signed in on the sheet in the back. If you're online, we have to be able to identify who you are. So if you make sure your name is up on your screen, like we don't know who Iggy's cell phone is. Okay, so if you're labeled as Iggy's cell phone, please make sure that Stacy is aware of that. And the name, your name, and the entity you're representing. And that way you can get the credit, because that is the most important part of being here today. All right, so we're going to turn the time over to Shelly. She's going to get us started. And thank you very much for being here today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I know this is so much fun every year. There are little changes every year, so that's why we do this. We want to make sure you get all the points you can possibly get on your applications. So we'll start. First of all, I want to introduce you to the board members that are here and make sure that we thank all of them, because they put in literally countless hours to make sure that this funding goes as far as it can and that it's spent in the best way possible for our community. So you've met Kevin, he's our chair. Ernie Gonzalez is our Arts and Museums chair. Kenna Brown is our Rec and Parks chair. Chris Zimmerman is here. He's a new Rec and Parks.
Oh, did she ring the bell?
And Diane is a new member for Arts and Museums. Do I have any more board members here that I'm not seeing? We have some online. Okay, so those, I can't see you online people, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. So you can see the list here of who we have. When they call you, please be nice to them. When they visit with you, they really do put in so much work for this program. Okay, in 2004 and again in 2014, Weber County RAMP was authorized to fund enhancements to recreation, arts, museums, and parks in Weber County. And it's actually on the ballot again this year. RAMP is funded by a sales tax that is 1/10 of 1% or 1 penny for $10. The average Weber County invests $12 per year to RAMP. That $12 generates more than $5 million per year for the community. So far, since 2004, RAMP has funded almost $67 million in Weber County. And when you think about that, we also ask that, as you all know, when you put in an application, you come in with a match. So imagine the match that goes along with that $67 million. That's an incredible amount of money that goes into making Weber County amazing. We have over 120 nonprofits that we have funded. This was last year's funding, just so you have an example of how it was or how it works. We divide the funding into 3/3. The first third goes to major grants. All of that goes to the majors. That's for projects that are $200,000 or more. Then we have 2/3 that goes to arts and museums and rec and parks. Out of that, we first take our municipality grants. That's for every city. They get $1 per citizen with a minimum of $5,000. And then we also take out our free summer Saturdays. And then from that, we divide that into 2 pots, and that goes to arts and museums and parks and rec. You can see that we kind of have more requested than we have to fund, but we have an amazing board that does their very best to make sure that that goes as far as possible. In order to qualify for funding, an applicant must be a Weber County city or nonprofit. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right. Actually, this is Kevin's page. Do you want to come up and do this page, Kevin?
Yep, sure. All right, so you can, I'll just, I'll try not to just read it, because I know y'all can read, but there's a couple of things we want to make sure we hit. So in order to qualify for funding, an applicant must be a Weber County city or a nonprofit organization operating within Weber County, and the project must be held in Weber County. Kind of really makes sense that we're Weber County RAMP, and we want the funds to remain in Weber County. A nonprofit organization must be a resident of Weber County and have met all the eligibility requirements for 3 years. So we have, new nonprofits are popping up regularly. Once they're established for 3 years, then they would qualify. And we've had a couple of those, my time on the board, that were new, they wanted some money, but just didn't meet that 3 years. If you're affiliated with a university, college, or educational institution, less than 50% of the money needs to be government money, and we want the project to be directed towards the community more than just the students and faculty of an institution. So we've helped with some playgrounds at some elementary schools and refurb some of those, and they have to be open to the community a major part of the time, not during school hours type of thing, but we work around that. But just so you know, it has to be open to the community. All right.
Down to reality. Okay, so my slide is talking about recreational facilities and what recreational facilities qualify as RAMP facilities. The recreational facility has to be publicly owned or operated, which could include campgrounds, docks, marinas, golf course, playgrounds, athletic fields, gymnasiums, swimming pools, trail systems, parks, other facilities used for recreational purposes, so sports, outdoor recreation, things like that. Those are what falls under the recreational facilities. One slide. She did so good. One slide. I know, right?
Okay. Under the recreational facilities, once again, you have to either be publicly owned or operated, and it can be in the form of a theater, a museum, an art center, a music hall, or other cultural or arts facility on there. Then on the next one, we have the cultural organizations, where you can be a private nonprofit, either an organization, institution, or an administrative unit, a municipal or county cultural council, and the primary purposes for the advancement in, man, I got to clean my glasses, preservation thereof would be a natural history, art, music, theater, dance, literature, motion pictures, storytelling, with a primary purpose in the advancement and preservation of history, natural history, arts, music, theater, and dance. I just want to take a minute here, being over the arts and museums, and just kind of talk a minute mainly to those applying for arts and museums. We have no problems if different entities want to do collaboration. But the thing we do ask, if you do collaborate, if you're entity A and an entity B, that if entity B provides like musical instructors for another program, that in your memorandum of understanding, you're clear on what both parties are going to do. So when it's reported on the budget sheet, what entity A and entity B report are going to be the same thing. Please don't try and lump it into one, because if you do and we don't understand the numbers, we are going to ask you to probably redo the budget and make it more clear on there. We're not doing it to be difficult, but it can be hard sometimes when we're trying to decipher how you may think of it being done on there. Especially with partial funding. And the other thing I'll say that'll make it real helpful is please make sure that your primary and secondary people that are on your application either know about your project, or if they're not, at least somebody on there is going to grab the bull by the horn, and grab someone and say, RAMP called, you need to set up a time. There's nothing worse than a conversation where you call primary and the person says, oh, that's not really my area, I'm sorry, let me give you somebody else to talk to. And then after 4 people, we find out we don't know anything. Because realistically, we have about 14 days from the time that the packets are given to the liaisons to the time that we meet to get it done. So we're on a very tight time frame. The longer it takes for us to find who the people know about the project and explain it to us, that means the further down you kind of fall, because we're getting the other appointments that we can get to first. And please, don't leave yourself to the last week, because that makes it almost impossible to really evaluate your program fairly on there. We'll do our best to work with you and call you starting from the time we get the packets on there. So that, I think, concludes the arts and museums.
All right, a little bit on our criteria for funding. First of all, just by show of hands, who's here for their first time with RAMP, doing a RAMP grant? Okay.
Hey, is there a chance we could have someone's mic is picking up a council meeting? Could we have them mute it? It's really.
That's okay.
else talking, or they would
be
interfering with
Okay. So some of this can sound kind of goofy as we're going through it. We've got some stuff that we have to stay pretty strict with, but we don't want to be difficult. This is not supposed to be difficult. We're doing recreation, arts, museums, and parks, right? I mean, that's what we're after. So if you have a problem, if you have a question, you're going to have an email and a contact for Shelley. She is everything RAMP knowledge. I have people that will ask me, hey, what about this? And I don't have to we're going to send you to Shelley, because she's got the answers. So if you have a question, if you have an idea, if you think, I think this would be a cool project, but I don't know if it would fit, reach out and ask Shelley. If you have a donor that comes to you and says, hey, I've got some money I want to throw towards a project, can you help match it with your city? Reach out to Shelley and see if it'll fit and where it'll fit, because we'll make sure you get the right answer. So don't be overwhelmed by some of the things we tell you. We really want to get all the money out there. There's nothing in it for us to hold on to any of it. So, all right. So, first of all, the burden is on you as an applicant to demonstrate that you meet the eligibility requirements. But we'll help you. We'll work with you getting through that part. All funded facilities must be in Weber County, and when possible, we like you to use Weber County contractors and products and that type of thing. Try to keep the money here in the county. Doesn't always work because of some specialty stuff, but as much as you can, please. Preference will be given to those collaborative projects and projects that are funded part by applying entities. So RAMP likes to be the last money in. We don't want to be the first money in, so if you're going to have a city budget, or you've got a private donor or something like that that's going to put money towards your project, gather that money, gather those details, and then come to RAMP looking for the final money. And we really like to be able to show that, particularly those private funds, those always score better if you have private funds as part of your match. That kind of covers that together. We won't pay for perpetual maintenance. So if you build a building, you build a facility, you're responsible, your city or your entity is responsible for the ongoing maintenance fees. All funded projects must be made available to use for all Weber County residents. We kind of touched on that. Reasonable, non-discriminatory user fees may be charged for the use of the facilities. And we have, you might have a theater entrance or a concert entrance or something like that. Some small fees can be collected. The total amount of grant money must be spent on the funded project. It must be used in Weber County. If you're planning a recreation festival, check the arts so festivals are arts and museums, not parks and rec. Again, if you're not clear, Shelley is the almighty RAMP. Like in The Wizard of Oz, when you look behind the curtain, it's Shelley. RAMP does not fund contingency fees, insurance, architecture studies, employees' salaries. Salaries always become an issue. We just don't cover them. So if it's in your grant, just take it out, because you know we're not going to do it. We don't cover prizes, trophies, refreshments, fireworks, or drone shows. We'd love to fireworks and drone shows. A cool drone show looks, but we just don't fund those things. Food items, city marquees, message boards, or fundraisers. So we won't put our money towards your fundraiser. Does that make sense? All right.
However, can I clarify that that doesn't mean that you can't, as an entity, we have some people that think that because they're, let's just say that their event may make money, that makes them a fundraiser. I'll use the conference center as an example. If the theater puts on a play and it happens to make money, that is not what we mean by a fundraiser. We mean a fundraiser where you're going to donate the funds to something else. Sorry.
No problem. Stipends are only paid for special guest performers, teachers, or musicians. We get more of that with arts and museums where they're bringing in conductors and those types of things, directors for projects. Any ramp money awarded and not used as outlined in the budget must be returned to the county. You're not docked points from 1 year if you return money from a previous year. You just didn't spend it. We just put it back in the pot and we'll disperse it next year. Costs such as police, fire department, trash pickup, city workers, and etc. should only be included if they are a real expense for the project. So if you have to bring them in separate, outside of their normal duties, then that can be compensated through, that can be covered through a ramp grant as a match. But you can't, but not as part of the, so if the guy has to go mow the grass anyways, you don't get to count that as part of your match because he's mowing the grass as part of his regular duties. And ramp funds cannot be re-granted. And that's kind of what we were talking about with the fundraiser. So you can't collect a ramp grant and then award grants to other smaller entities, which we've had that attempted. That's why there's a bullet point, right? There's somebody tried it. That's why there's a bullet point. And also, ramp is never guaranteed. So as you're putting together your city budget or your nonprofit budget, you're just not able to count on ramp funds because, again, we like to be last in. So we're not a guarantee. So it's hard to, and it's hard to sit down with your board or your council and say, hey, we're going to do this because we know we're going to get this ramp money. And we just don't know what the projects are going to be until it's time. We don't know totally what the funding's going to be. We can ballpark it really close, year to year, but it's just hard to say what some of those applications will look like. But there's been some really cool projects, and now that maybe you'll start to notice some more ramp signs. There's some really cool projects around the county that take a lot of money. There's a lot of money. In some of these great parks. I think one of the ones that you can see the very best right now is that new skate park on 40th Street. If you haven't been up and down 40th, that's a partial ramp funding there. That's a big project and very popular. Yes, sir.
Let me just add one thing for arts museums. It's okay to call your liaison if you have a minimum level of funding, but that doesn't necessarily mean the ramp is going to be able to give you your minimum level of funding. It's nice to tell us, but it's not a guarantee when we go through and figure everything out at the end.
So I think what Ernie's saying is, so if we ask you if you'll take partial funding, say you apply for an $80,000 grant, and we come up and say we can only fund $40,000, is that about what? And then, but $40,000 won't do your project. It's okay to tell us $40,000 won't do my project, and pass on that, and that does happen from time to time. So if partial funding is not an option for you, make sure we know. Okay, let's talk about volunteer matching, because this comes up every year. We hope we've dialed it in to where it'll make sense. So a volunteer match. A volunteer is someone who freely offers to participate in an activity or performs a service without expecting payment. These hours are calculated at $20 per hour and go towards your match. All right? A professional service is a service that requires specialized knowledge and skills, often a mental or intellectual nature, typically require a license, certification, or registration. Examples include, but not limited to, lawyers, doctors, accountants, engineers, and architects. These matches can be calculated at actual cost of the specific service and verified as part of the reporting process. So here's what's happened in the past. We've had we've volunteer match, $20 an hour, and an entity has an architect. I'm going to use an architect that will donate the design of a facility. But in the real world, it would maybe cost $15,000 to have that architect. That's just a number I pulled out of the air. $15,000 to design a building. We're not going to pay them at $20 an hour to volunteer that service. They're going to provide us with an invoice that says, yep, this is $15,000 worth of work, and it's going to be part of the match for the grant. And we have, I don't know if we overcomplicate, I think probably we overcomplicated it. That's probably where it really landed, is we overcomplicated it. So volunteers, if you have people that are come help you assemble a park, you know, you get on Facebook and say, hey, help assemble our park on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning, those are volunteers. Okay, so, all right. Budget reminders. Any questions on volunteers and professional services? Okay. The budget form on the RAMP website is required. We have taken that down to the simplest possible form, and it's really for us because we don't have a lot of trained accountants on our board. It's a lot of volunteers from a lot of different areas in life, and so that budget application, that budget form is really simplified for us, and hopefully it makes it easier for you to put your numbers in there. Budgets must include a list of all the project expenses with a separate list with RAMP expenses, and that is spelled out on the budget form. Okay, just fill in the boxes. Any questions? Just see if we learned anything. If we have any questions, who do we call? Thank you. All right. Any costs for which RAMP funds are used must have a competitive bids or estimates and or cost comparisons unless you're using state bid as a government entity. Right? So if you're, all of our nonprofits, you know, most of our nonprofits have to have competitive bids, but Todd does a lot of projects with Weber County, and it's government contract, government bid stuff, so that's it's one price. Always include other funding sources for the project, as well as any in-kind donations or volunteer work that will be used. Get credit for every penny. That's what you're looking for, credit for every penny on your application. And matching funds, your matching funds must be guaranteed. If your funding is pending, I think there's a box to check for pending funds. Check the pending. Don't check the secured box. If you say it's secured and it's not secured, you're not going to fare very well with the board in the future. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay, thanks.
I'll kind of explain why that's kind of a big deal. If you say you have guaranteed funding and then it doesn't happen, we've issued a lot of money to an entity that has a project that's going nowhere. And that's not fair to the projects that could have taken that funding and run and put on something great. So that's the reason why that's kind of become a big deal. Okay, now for what's expected on your applications when you turn them in. First of all, you can apply for one major, 3 regulars for rec and parks. Well, first of all, a major is for $200,000 or more. The regular grants are for $2,001 to $199,999, and then easy grants are for $2,000 or less. You can apply for one major, for 3 rec and parks, 3 arts museums, and 3 easies. So that's a total of what, 7, 9, 10, 3, 6, 10? Yeah, 10. I did math. So you can apply for up to 10 applications. Make sure you have your mission statement included. Make sure your mission statement aligns with RAMP. There are times when I will call an entity and say, your mission statement doesn't work. Get with your board and see if you can change it. If your board agrees to change it, it needs to be a permanent change, not just for this, not just for RAMP. We need it to align from here as long as you have a project that's funded by RAMP. So. Completion reports are always due on June 30th of the following year. Points will be deducted for late reports, no reports, or failed audits. Points will be awarded for non-tax dollar collaboration. Each entity can only turn in a total of, we went over that. Multi-phase projects can only use the land area as in the current project as a match, or in the current phase. You will likely have a different liaison for your arts and museums projects than you do for your recreation and parks projects. So if you are a city, more than often it's a city, you may have somebody call you that's working on the arts and museums projects for those applications, and then somebody else will call you for your recreation and parks projects. Please be nice when they call, and please understand that you might have two liaisons. These people are spending a lot of time to make sure that you are getting the best bang you can get with your applications. If you hire a grant writer, review the application with the grant writer before it is submitted. Keep a copy of your application so that you can answer the questions. And make sure that your main contact is on your application. The grant writer can be the second contact. Usually that's more appropriate. Not always, but usually.
Do we need to clarify that land piece?
Would you like to do that? You're welcome to.
The best I can.
Yes.
So back up to the piece about land. So if you have a land, if you're using land as part of your match, we're using the assessed value of the property, not what you think fair market value is, unless you buy the property specifically for this project. So if you buy a piece of dirt and you spend a couple $100,000 on a piece of dirt specifically for this project, you get to use that as part of your match. But if it's just one of your parks, or if it's like that, then we're using the assessed value. If you have a large park, then maybe you're chunking out. We're looking at just the piece that's used for that project. Anybody thinking about land that it gets a little muddy, but that was as close as I could get. Sorry, on short notice. Yes, sir.
So, question on that. So what you're saying is that if I owned a piece of land and wanted to have you guys help me build a building on top of it, I could use the land as a match at fair market value?
Assessed value. Assessed value, yes. 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 And because some people think more of their land than others, so that's why we go assessed value.
Okay, deadlines. For majors and regular grants, January 17th. For easy grants, March 21st. Go back to the where?
Don't include, just staple your papers.
Please just staple your papers. Don't use fancy cover sheets. Don't use folders. Just make sure they're all correlated and stapled. You don't get extra points for a pretty binder. And we just throw them away. It's such a waste. If you have any questions, then feel free to call either me or Stacy. Does anybody have any questions right now? Yes, sir.
When you were talking about when we needed invoices or multiple goods, if we follow our city or county procurement, we have levels before we have to get bids. Can we follow that?
Yes.
We have to treat those funds just like municipal.
Yes. Yep. As a reminder again, make sure you've signed in online and at the door just to make sure you get credit for being here. I think most of you did, but just in case. Was there a question back here?
Yeah, just quick, it's on the ballot again, which I feel like all of us need to be very aware about and pushing.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything for us to push to our organizations, out to the community? Do you guys have any logos? Or what's the bill and what do we want to vote on it?
Okay. I'm not allowed to say a whole lot about it because I work for Weber County, which is kind of, but Kevin, do you want to? You can forward that stuff I sent out to you, though.
Okay. So the question is, what are we voting for? Is that?
I would like to push this out.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So we've got the part of the presentation, and we can put, where can we put this on the website, or can I?
There is a web.
There's a Facebook page.
Go to the Weber County website and then go on to RAMP. There's actually a Renew RAMP website that you can go to, and it has all of the RAMP Renew information. So we do have that.
So that's we have access to that, and you can push that out through any of your social media sites and your friends and your family. This one doesn't require it's not a big push. I mean, it's a penny for every $10. And when you look at the things that we've been able to accomplish, of course, there's faction out there that every tax is a bad tax, and so that's some of the folks we have to deal with. But you just know that there's a lot of projects that you've worked on, and any information. How can I give them my contact? How can I get them my contact information so I can shoot stuff out to them?
Well, I honestly think that website has everything
Okay.
I would need. That's actually a really, I'm sorry, I forgot that we had that, but we have a really great website that's for the Ramp Renew. It has everything you need. And if you need more, feel free to call me and I'll direct you. We do have a Ramp Renew out there that Kevin's part of, and so.
I just want to make sure we all do our bit.
Yes, I agree. I appreciate that. Ramp is awesome.
Yes.
So is that legally okay for nonprofits to engage in political advocacy?
That's going to be really up to your board and how you want to.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't have to be. You can do that without being political on it for your organization. That you personally can advocate all you want. And so maybe your organization doesn't want their name attached to it, but don't tell us on the RAMP application, okay?
501c3 rules just say not partisan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Oh.
It
That's
is
very-
referred to as Proposition 19 on the ballot, which might be confusing for people who may not know what that is, but we've tried to add language to it.
It'll say Proposition 19, Ramp.
Yes, sir.
A non-new ramp question. When you talked about salaries, I understand we can't pay with ramp funds. Will you clarify, they can be part of your matching? Do we allow volunteers, but say myself as the county is going to do a portion of the work with my staff, I can count those hours as part of the matching, but not ask you to fund them?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because
I've tried to make it clear.
Uh-huh,
that I
yeah.
can speak as a
Yeah, because you're doing it for that specific.
If it's for Pacific, yeah.
And that's what we do. I just want to make sure, because that's been a question in the past.
not as part of their general duties, but as for that project.
Yes.
Specific.
We have special project people that I
Okay.
assign to doing that project, not the one that.
Okay. Yes.
So you mentioned, the dangers of if you fail an audit. Are all these projects, if funded, are they subject to an audit? Like automatically, or who does that? Or is it just like you have it investigated or like?
They are subject to, every project is subject to an audit. It's done, if there's a random draw, our clerk auditor does it, so.
And how are, supposing that a project is found to fail an audit, what are repercussions of that? Is there any payback that?
We've had it happen in the past, and that entity just was not allowed to apply until things were remedied, so.
So you mentioned also that they have to, everyone that is funded has to write a report just of where the funds were spent and how.
Right, there's a report online, and it gives you exactly what you need. Like, there's a checkbox list, the whole thing, so,
I have one more question.
okay.
Just about land. So supposing that a piece of land is donated for like the project to keep, but if it's like donated for the use of that day or that particular project, is that an in-kind match that's possible and funds in a sense?
How do we do Smith family?
So clarify if it's donated like for the day.
Yeah, well, so it's not like here's this parcel of land, you get to keep it, but like here I have this area and your event may be on this area on this day, and that's, so they may not have to rent that, but if it's donated to.
So Kevin, like if the
You're-
county approved not to charge for cover.
I think,
That's interesting.
yeah, and I think we would take what would be the normal rental fee and use that as the match. So that it doesn't get too tricky.
That's a good
And
question.
that would, yeah,
An entity could supply you with a letter, what the normal fee would be.
yeah. So there's nothing we're not trying to trip you up anywhere or catch you in an audit.
No.
We want you to pass all your audits. We want to get rid of all the money. We want your project to run smoothly. So don't let any of it be overwhelming. If a question pops in your head, email Shelley and she will get you an answer. Because it's really important to us that this is fairly easy.
And we always want ramp to look good, so that's always our number one goal.
Anything else? All right.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
Welcome to ramp season.
Yay.